Stop for a moment. Just stop. I need you to answer one question honestly. When you look at your life right now, when you really look at it without filters or excuses, are you living the life you promised yourself you'd live, or are you pretending? You know what I'm talking about, that dream you had 5 years ago, that version of yourself you swore you'd become, that promise you made in the mirror when things got hard. I'm going to change. This time will be different. I'm going to become someone I'm proud of. Where did that person go? Here's the truth that's going to hurt. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're not stuck because you lack opportunity. You're not stuck because other people have advantages you don't have. You're stuck because every single day you choose comfort over growth. You choose distraction over discipline. You choose familiar pain over uncertain change. And I know you feel it. That quiet ache in your chest when you're alone with your thoughts. That voice that whispers, "Is this really all there is? Is this what I'm settling for?" That regret that keeps you awake at 2 a.m. thinking about all the things you should have done, could have done, would have done, if only you weren't so afraid. But here's what most people don't realize until it's too late. Fear isn't keeping you safe. Fear is stealing your life, one day at a time, one excuse at a time, one "I'll start tomorrow" at a time. How many more tomorrows are you going to waste before you realize that tomorrow never comes? How many more years are you going to let slip by while you wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself? The truth is brutal but liberating. You are one decision away from a completely different life. Not someday, not when circumstances change, right now. This audiobook isn't about motivation that fades by morning. This is about the hard truths that will either wake you up or confirm that you're not ready. And if you're still listening, if something inside you is saying, "I need this," then maybe, just maybe, you're finally ready to stop lying to yourself and start becoming who you were meant to be. The question is, are you brave enough to face what's been holding you back? Are you strong enough to do what's necessary instead of what's comfortable? Are you ready to stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the architect of your destiny? Because the person you're meant to become is waiting, but they're running out of patience, and so is your time. Alternative hook 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 15. I need to tell you something, and it's going to sound harsh, but someone needs to say it, and it might as well be me. You're dying. Not someday in the distant future, right now. Every moment you spend scrolling mindlessly, every hour you waste on things that don't matter, every day you spend living someone else's expectations instead of your own truth, that's a piece of your life you'll never get back. And the worst part? You know it. Deep down, you know you're capable of more. You feel it every time you see someone living the life you wish you had. Every time you think, "I could do that," but you don't. Every time you promise yourself you'll change and then wake up tomorrow doing the exact same things. You're haunted by your own potential, and that's the most painful way to live. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at yourself in the mirror and felt proud? Not proud of what you're wearing or how you look, but proud of who you're becoming, proud of the choices you're making, proud of the discipline you're showing, proud of the person staring back at you. Can't remember? Neither can most people, because most people are living in quiet desperation, going through the motions, pretending everything is fine while their dreams die slowly inside them. But you're different. You're here, you're listening, which means some part of you, maybe buried deep but still alive, still believes you can change, still believe you're meant for something more, still believes that the best version of you is possible. And you're right. Everything you want, everything you dream about, everything you've convinced yourself is impossible. It's all within reach. But not if you keep doing what you've been doing. Not if you keep thinking the same thoughts. Not if you keep making the same excuses. Change requires courage. It requires you to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It requires you to let go of who you've been so you can become who you're meant to be. And it starts right now, not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you're ready, now. Are you ready to stop surviving and start living? Are you ready to stop settling and start becoming? Are you ready to finally keep the promise you made to yourself? Then let's begin, because your life is waiting, and it's too precious to waste another single day. Intro 0003. So, close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the person you were 5 years ago, the dreams you had, the goals you set, the version of yourself you promised you'd become. Now, open your eyes and ask yourself honestly, did you become that person? Or are you still waiting, still hoping, still telling yourself someday? Here's a truth that might sting. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't about luck. It isn't about timing. It isn't even about opportunity. That gap exists because of one thing and one thing only: the choices you make every single day. Right now, in this exact moment, you're sitting at a crossroads. One path leads to more of the same. The same patterns, the same excuses, the same unfulfilled potential. The other path, it leads to transformation. Real, tangible, life-altering transformation. But here's the catch. That second path requires something from you. It requires commitment. It requires courage. It requires you to stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. This audiobook isn't just another collection of motivational phrases that sound good but change nothing. This is a blueprint, a proven framework for taking control of your mind, your emotions, your habits, and ultimately your entire life. Over the next 90 minutes, you're going to learn exactly how to break free from the mental prison you've been living in. You're going to discover why you keep sabotaging yourself. And most importantly, you're going to walk away with practical tools that actually work. But I need you to do something right now. I need you to make a decision. Decide that for the next 90 minutes, you're all in, not half listening while scrolling through your phone, not letting your mind wander to your to-do list. Fully present, fully engaged, because the information you're about to receive has the power to change everything, but only if you actually absorb it and apply it. Your current life is the sum of all the decisions you've made up until this point. That's not a criticism. That's just reality. And here's the beautiful part. If your decisions created your current reality, then different decisions can create a completely different future, starting right now. Starting with the choice to truly listen and learn. The person you're meant to become is waiting. Let's go find them together. Chapter 1. The mind you feed becomes your reality. Let me ask you something. When you woke up this morning, what was the first thought that entered your mind? Was it empowering? Was it grateful? Or was it anxious, negative, focused on everything you have to do and everything that could go wrong? Most people don't realize they're feeding their minds poison every single day. They scroll through social media first thing in the morning, filling their consciousness with comparison, negativity, and carefully curated highlights of other people's lives. They replay past failures on an endless loop. They rehearse future disasters that haven't happened and probably never will. They consume news designed to trigger fear and outrage. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, anxious, and unfulfilled. Your mind is not a passive observer. Your mind is an active creator. Everything you feed it, every thought you repeat, every piece of content you consume, every conversation you engage in, it all becomes the raw material that shapes your reality. Think of your mind like a garden. You can plant seeds of possibility, growth, and abundance, or you can let weeds of doubt, fear, and limitation take over. The choice is yours, but make no mistake, you are choosing even when you think you're not. Here's something most people never consider. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a thought you intentionally chose and a thought that randomly appeared. It simply processes whatever you give it the most attention to. This means that when you repeatedly think, "I'm not good enough," your brain accepts that as truth and begins filtering your entire experience through that lens. It will find evidence to support that belief. It will dismiss evidence that contradicts it. Your brain's job isn't to tell you the truth. Your brain's job is to confirm what you already believe. But here's where it gets powerful. This mechanism works both ways. When you deliberately feed your mind empowering thoughts, when you intentionally focus on growth and possibility, your brain starts finding evidence for that instead. Opportunities you would have missed suddenly become visible. Solutions to problems appear, connections happen, not because the universe is magically rewarding you, but because you're finally paying attention to what was there all along. Starting today, I want you to become fiercely protective of what enters your mind. Stop consuming content mindlessly. Stop replaying negative thoughts without questioning them. Stop accepting limiting beliefs as permanent facts. Every morning, before you do anything else, feed your mind something powerful. Read something inspiring, listen to something educational, visualize something meaningful. Set the tone intentionally instead of letting the chaos of the world set it for you. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending problems don't exist. This is about understanding a fundamental truth. You cannot think negative thoughts and live a positive life. You cannot feed your mind doubt and expect confidence to grow. You cannot consume content that makes you feel small and expect to show up powerfully in the world. The mind you feed consistently and intentionally becomes the reality you live. Choose your mental diet as carefully as you choose your physical one, because just like junk food destroys your body, junk thoughts destroy your potential. What are you feeding your mind today? Chapter 2: Breaking Free from Limiting Beliefs. Right now, somewhere deep in your subconscious, there's a voice. You know the one I'm talking about. The voice that says you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. The voice that whispers, people like you don't succeed at things like that. The voice that reminds you of every failure, every rejection, every time you tried and fell short. That voice? It's a lie. But here's the problem. You've been listening to it for so long that you've started to believe it. These limiting beliefs have become so embedded in your psyche that they feel like facts. They feel like the truth. They feel like permanent aspects of who you are. But they're not. They're just thoughts. Thoughts that you've repeated so many times, they've carved deep neural pathways in your brain. And just like any pathway, they can be redirected. Think about where these beliefs came from. Maybe a teacher told you that you weren't creative when you were 8 years old, and you've carried that story for 20 years. Maybe your parents, with all their love and good intentions, taught you to play it safe, to not take risks, to settle for security over passion. Maybe you had a relationship that ended badly, and you decided that meant you weren't lovable. Maybe you tried to start a business and it failed, so you concluded that entrepreneurship just isn't for you. Here's what actually happened. You had an experience, you interpreted that experience in a way that hurt, and then you turned that interpretation into a belief about yourself. But that belief isn't you. It's not hardwired into your DNA. It's not an unchangeable truth about your capabilities or your worth. It's just a story you've been telling yourself. And stories can be rewritten. I want you to try something right now. Think of one limiting belief you carry, just one. Maybe it's I'm bad with money. Maybe it's I'm not a confident person. Maybe it's I'll never be in great shape. Now ask yourself, is this absolutely objectively true, or is it just a belief I've accepted without question? When you actually examine limiting beliefs, most of them fall apart. I'm bad with money becomes I haven't learned good financial habits yet, but I can. I'm not a confident person becomes I haven't practiced confidence building behaviors regularly, but I can start. I'll never be in great shape becomes I haven't committed to the right program consistently, but that can change today. See the difference? One version is a permanent prison. The other version is a temporary situation that can be improved. Same facts, completely different meaning, and meaning is everything. Breaking free from limiting beliefs requires 3 steps. First, awareness. You have to catch yourself thinking the limiting thought. You have to notice when that voice starts speaking. Second, questioning. You have to challenge the belief. Ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this who I want to be? Third, replacement. You have to install a new, empowering belief in its place and then actively look for evidence that supports it. This isn't about lying to yourself or creating delusions. This is about seeing yourself accurately. The truth is that you have untapped potential. The truth is that you're capable of learning, growing, and adapting in virtually any area of life. The truth is that your past does not define your future unless you let it. Every single person you admire, every person who's achieved something remarkable, started out not knowing how. They had doubts, they had fears, they had limiting beliefs. The difference is they didn't let those beliefs make their decisions. They felt the fear and moved forward anyway. They heard the doubt and chose action over paralysis. You are not your limiting beliefs. You are the consciousness that can observe those beliefs, question them, and choose different ones. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. What belief are you ready to let go of today? Chapter 3: The Discipline of Daily Habits. Here's a hard truth. You don't actually want to be successful. What you want is to already be successful. You want the result without the process, the destination without the journey, the harvest without the planting, watering, and patient waiting. But that's not how life works. That's not how anything works. Success, real success, is built in the unglamorous moments. It's built when you wake up early even though you're tired. It's built when you keep showing up even though you don't see results yet. It's built in the small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day when nobody's watching and nobody's applauding. Most people fail not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity. They fail because they lack discipline. They rely on motivation, and motivation is the most unreliable force in the universe. Motivation is an emotion. It rises and falls based on how you feel, what's happening around you, and whether or not you got enough sleep last night. Building your life on motivation is like building a house on quicksand. Discipline is different. Discipline is a decision. It's the commitment you make once and then honor repeatedly through your behavior, regardless of how you feel. Discipline says, I decided this matters, so I'm doing it. End of discussion. There's no negotiation, no internal debate, no waiting until you feel ready. You simply do what needs to be done. Think about the person you want to become. Really visualize them. What do they do every day? What habits do they maintain? How do they spend their mornings? What do they prioritize? Now, compare that vision to what you actually did today. The gap between these two versions of you. That's where discipline needs to live. Let me give you a framework that actually works. Choose one keystone habit, just one. A keystone habit is something that, if you did it consistently, would create positive ripple effects throughout your entire life. Maybe it's exercising every morning. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes before bed. Maybe it's working on a meaningful project for an hour each day. Whatever it is, it should be challenging enough to matter, but simple enough to sustain. Now, commit to that habit for 30 consecutive days, not sporadically, not when it's convenient, every single day. And here's the crucial part. During those 30 days, you're going to face massive internal resistance. Your mind is going to offer you every excuse in the book. You're too tired today. You can start fresh on Monday. Missing one day won't matter. You deserve a break. Recognize these thoughts for what they are, tests. Your brain is testing your commitment. It's seeing if you actually mean it this time, or if this is just another abandoned attempt like all the others. Every time you push through the resistance and honor your commitment anyway, you pass the test. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And self-trust is the foundation of everything. Here's something powerful that happens when you build discipline. It compounds. That first week is brutal. Your mind rebels against the new routine. But if you push through, week 2 gets slightly easier. Week 3, easier still. By week 4, you've created momentum. The behavior that once required enormous willpower now requires just a little push. And if you keep going, eventually it becomes automatic. It becomes part of who you are. But most people never experience this because they quit during week 1 or 2. They quit right before the breakthrough would have happened. They abandon the process right before discipline would have transformed into identity. Understand this. You are not lacking discipline in every area of your life. You brush your teeth every day, don't you? You take showers. You show up to work. These are all acts of discipline that you maintain without thinking about them, which means you already have the capacity for discipline. You just need to redirect it toward things that actually matter. Your life right now is the direct result of your daily habits. If you don't like your current reality, change your daily habits. It's that simple. Not easy, but simple. Small disciplines repeated with consistency create massive transformation over time. What one habit, if you did it every day for the next 30 days, would fundamentally change your life? Start there. Start today. Not tomorrow, not Monday. Today. Because discipline isn't what you do occasionally. Discipline is what you do consistently. And consistency is what creates the life you actually want. Chapter 4: Emotional Mastery in a Chaotic World. Let me paint you a picture. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart rate spikes. Anger floods your system. You tailgate them. You curse. You let this stranger, who doesn't even know you exist, completely hijack your emotional state. You carry that anger into your next interaction. You snap at someone you love, all because of a 30-second traffic incident that meant nothing. This is what living without emotional mastery looks like. You're not in control. Your emotions are. Every external trigger pulls your strings. Every disappointment sends you spiraling. Every criticism cuts deep. You're a passenger in your own emotional life, bounced around by circumstances you can't control. But here's what changes everything. You are not your emotions. You are the one experiencing your emotions. And there's a massive difference between those two things. Emotions are information. They're signals from your nervous system. They rise, they peak, they fall. They're temporary. But most people treat emotions like commands that must be obeyed immediately. They feel angry, so they lash out. They feel anxious, so they avoid. They feel hurt, so they withdraw. They've handed complete control of their behavior over to whatever emotion happens to be present. Emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing feelings or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Emotional mastery means creating space between the emotion and your response. It means feeling the feeling fully while choosing your action deliberately. Here's how this works in practice. Something happens, an emotion arises. Instead of immediately reacting, you pause, you observe, you say to yourself, I'm feeling angry right now, not I am angry. You're feeling angry. It's a state you're experiencing, not your identity. That simple linguistic shift creates psychological distance. You're no longer merged with the emotion, you're the consciousness observing it. And from that place of observation, you have choice. You can ask yourself, is this emotion giving me useful information, or is it just old programming? Will the action I'm about to take align with who I want to be? How will I feel about this decision tomorrow? These questions slow you down. They interrupt the automatic stimulus response pattern that's been running your life. And in that interruption, you reclaim control. Think about the people you respect most, the people who seem unshakable, the people who remain calm when everyone else is panicking. What makes them different? They're not emotionless robots. They feel everything you feel. The difference is they've developed the ability to feel without being controlled by the feeling. They've created space between stimulus and response, and in that space lives freedom. Now, let's talk about triggers. Everyone has them. Certain situations, certain words, certain behaviors from other people that consistently produce intense emotional reactions. These triggers aren't random. They point directly to unhealed wounds, unmet needs, or deeply held fears. When you notice yourself getting triggered, pay attention. Don't just react and move on. Ask yourself, what is this really about? Why did that particular thing affect me so strongly? What old wound did this situation touch? Understanding your triggers gives you power over them. You can't eliminate triggers, but you can change how you respond to them. Emotional mastery also requires understanding that not every thought requires action and not every feeling requires expression. You can feel irritated with someone and choose kindness anyway. You can feel fear about a decision and move forward anyway. You can feel doubt about your abilities and take action anyway. Feelings don't have to dictate behavior. Here's a practice that will change your emotional life. At the end of each day, reflect on your emotional reactions. When did you react instead of respond? When did you let emotion make your decisions? When did you act from fear instead of values? Don't judge yourself, just notice, because awareness is the first step to change. Over time, you'll start catching yourself in the moment. You'll feel anger rising and think, I don't have to act on this. You'll feel anxiety spiking and realize, this is just a feeling, it will pass. You'll feel hurt and choose, I won't make this mean something about my worth. The world will always be chaotic. People will disappoint you, plans will fail, challenges will arise. You cannot control these external circumstances, but you can absolutely control your internal response. And your response, not the circumstance, determines your experience of life. Master your emotions, and you master your life. Chapter 5: The Power of Focused Attention. Let me tell you what's actually killing your potential. It's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's not even a lack of time. It's a distraction, constant, relentless, addictive distraction. Right now, hundreds of companies are fighting for your attention. Social media platforms engineer their algorithms to keep you scrolling. News outlets design headlines to trigger emotional responses. Entertainment is available 24/7. Notifications ping constantly. Your attention is being pulled in 1,000 different directions simultaneously, and while this is happening, your dreams are dying. Because here's the truth. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, results eventually show. If your attention is fragmented, scattered across dozens of inputs and stimuli, your energy is diluted. You're doing a little of everything and a lot of nothing. You're busy but not productive, active but not progressing. Focused attention is becoming the scarcest and most valuable resource in the modern world. The person who can maintain deep, undivided focus for extended periods has an absolutely massive advantage. They learn faster, they solve problems better, they create higher quality work, they accomplish in one focused hour what others can't accomplish in 5 distracted ones. But focus is a skill. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you build through deliberate practice. And right now, most people are practicing the opposite. They're training themselves to be distracted. Every time they check their phone during a conversation, they're practicing distraction. Every time they switch tasks, when things get difficult, they're practicing distraction. Every time they scroll mindlessly, they're practicing distraction. And practice is made permanent. Here's what you need to understand. Your brain follows patterns. Whatever you practice most frequently becomes your default mode. If you practice being distracted, distraction becomes your baseline. If you practice being focused, focus becomes your baseline. It's that simple. So how do you build real focus? Start by protecting blocks of time. Choose your most important task and dedicate 60 uninterrupted minutes to it. Silence your phone, close email, shut down social media, remove every potential distraction from your environment. Then sit down and focus on that one thing. Your mind is going to resist. It's going to generate urges to check messages, to switch tasks, to seek stimulation. Notice these urges without acting on them. Every time you resist the pull of distraction, you're strengthening your focus muscle. You're teaching your brain that you're in charge, not the dopamine-seeking part of your nervous system. Single tasking is a superpower in a multitasking world. While everyone else is juggling multiple inputs and producing mediocre results across all of them, you're going deep on one thing and producing exceptional results. While they're scattered, you're concentrated. While they're diffused, you're intense. And intensity, applied over time, creates breakthroughs. This principle applies to your goals too. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack focus. They're pursuing 10 different goals simultaneously. They want to build a business, get in shape, learn a language, write a book, and improve their relationships all at the same time. Their energy is spread so thin across all these priorities that none of them receive enough attention to generate real progress. Choose fewer goals, pursue them with complete focus, give them the concentrated attention required for breakthrough results. Then, once achieved, move to the next one. Sequential focus beats parallel diffusion every single time. Let me give you a harsh reality check. You cannot do everything. Time is finite, energy is limited, attention is scarce. These are constraints, but they're also clarifying forces. When you accept that you cannot do everything, you're forced to choose what matters most. And that choice, made consciously and protected fiercely, becomes the foundation of extraordinary achievement. The world will try to steal your focus. Protect it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. Scattered attention creates scattered results. Focused attention creates extraordinary ones. What deserves your focus today? Chapter 6: Resilience Through Adversity. Life is going to knock you down. Not once, not occasionally, repeatedly. You will face rejection. You will experience failure. You will encounter obstacles that feel impossible to overcome. Plans will collapse. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will shift without warning. This is not pessimism. This is reality. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can prepare for it. The difference between people who thrive and people who merely survive isn't the absence of adversity, it's how they respond to it. Because here's the secret: adversity doesn't build character, adversity reveals it. And for those who are prepared, adversity becomes the very thing that makes them stronger. Think about it like this: a muscle doesn't grow when you're resting. It grows when you're lifting weights heavy enough to create resistance. The resistance tears the muscle fibers. During recovery, those fibers rebuild stronger than before. That's how you get stronger physically, and that's exactly how you get stronger mentally and emotionally too. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to build resilience. Every setback is training. Every moment of struggle is making you more capable of handling future struggles, but only if you choose to learn from it instead of being destroyed by it. Most people avoid difficulty at all costs. They seek comfort, safety, and predictability. They build their entire lives around minimizing discomfort. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with comfort, a life built entirely around avoiding adversity is a fragile life. Because when inevitable hardship arrives, and it will arrive, they shatter. They have no resilience because they've never practiced it. Resilient people think differently about challenges. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What can I learn from this?" They don't view adversity as punishment from the universe. They view it as preparation for what's coming next. This perspective shift is absolutely everything. When you reframe challenges as opportunities for growth, they stop feeling overwhelming. They become puzzles to solve, problems to work through, skills to develop. You're no longer a victim of circumstances, you're a student of life, and life is teaching you lessons that will serve you forever. Let me tell you what resilience actually looks like. It's not about never falling, it's about how quickly you get back up. It's not about never feeling hurt, it's about not letting that hurt define you. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about extracting the lesson and trying again with better information. Build resilience by intentionally facing discomfort, not recklessly, not foolishly, but deliberately. Take on challenges slightly beyond your current capacity. Push yourself past familiar limits. Embrace situations that require you to adapt, learn, and grow. Because every time you successfully navigate difficulty, you're building evidence. Evidence that you can handle hard things, evidence that you're capable, evidence that you're stronger than you think, and that evidence becomes unshakable confidence. When something goes wrong, and it will go wrong, allow yourself to feel the disappointment. Don't suppress it. Feel it fully, but don't dwell there. Process the emotion, extract the lesson, and move forward. Ask yourself, what went wrong? What was within my control? What would I do differently next time? These questions transform failure into feedback, and feedback is just information you can use to improve. Here's something powerful to remember. You've already survived 100% of your worst days. Every challenge you thought would break you didn't. Every moment you didn't think you'd get through, you got through. You're still here. You're still standing. You're stronger than you realize. And every new challenge is making you stronger still. Resilience isn't about never falling down, it's about always getting back up. It's about standing in the wreckage of what didn't work and saying, okay, what's next? It's about refusing to let temporary defeat become permanent failure. The storm will come. Are you ready? Chapter 7. The Courage to be Authentic. Who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you when there's nothing to gain from pretending? Who are you when the mask comes off and the performance ends? Most people can't answer these questions because they've spent so much time being what others expect that they've lost touch with who they actually are. They've become shapeshifters, different versions of themselves depending on the audience. They edit their opinions, they hide their interests, they suppress their personalities. They've traded authenticity for approval, and that trade has cost them everything. Here's what happens when you live inauthentically. You attract people and opportunities that match the mask, not the real you. You build relationships based on pretense. You pursue goals that don't actually fulfill you. You achieve things that look impressive but feel hollow. You wake up one day, look in the mirror, and don't recognize the person staring back. Because you've spent so much energy being who you thought you should be that you forgot how to be who you actually are. Authenticity requires courage, real courage, because when you show people who you really are, you risk rejection. When you express your actual thoughts, some people will disagree. When you pursue your true interests, some people will judge you. When you set boundaries that reflect your real values, some people will be disappointed. And that fear of disappointing others, that fear of rejection, that fear of not fitting in, it keeps people trapped in performances they never chose. They become actors in their own lives, always reading from a script someone else wrote. But here's the truth. The right people, the people who are actually meant to be in your life, will appreciate your authenticity. They'll respect your honesty. They'll value the real you far more than any polished performance you could ever give. And the people who reject you for being authentic, they were never your people anyway. Losing connections built on pretense isn't loss, it's liberation. It's making space for real connections with people who actually see you and choose you anyway. Authenticity starts with self-awareness. You need to know who you actually are before you can be who you actually are. Spend time alone, journal, reflect. Ask yourself the hard questions. What do I actually value? What do I actually believe? What do I actually want? Not what I've been told to want, what I want. These answers might surprise you. You might discover that the career path you're on isn't actually yours, that the life you're building is someone else's vision, that the person you're pretending to be is exhausting to maintain. That discovery, as uncomfortable as it is freedom. Start expressing your authentic self in small ways. Share an honest opinion when asked instead of saying what you think people want to hear. Say no to something that doesn't align with your values instead of agreeing out of obligation. Pursue an interest that genuinely excites you instead of dismissing it because it seems weird or impractical. Each small act of authenticity builds momentum. You'll notice something powerful. Being authentic is energizing. You're no longer expending massive amounts of energy maintaining multiple versions of yourself. You're not monitoring every word to ensure it matches the expected script. You're just being. And that simplicity is freeing. Authenticity also accelerates growth. When you're honest about your limitations, you can address them. When you acknowledge your mistakes, you can learn from them. When you express your true aspirations, you can pursue them. Pretense keeps you stuck. Authenticity moves you forward. Now, let me be clear. Authenticity doesn't mean lacking boundaries. It doesn't mean oversharing or dumping your entire emotional state on everyone you meet. It doesn't mean being rude under the guise of just being real. Authenticity is about internal alignment, not external aggression. You can be authentic and kind. You can be honest and tactful. You can be yourself and still show up respectfully in different contexts. These aren't contradictions. What matters is that you're not fundamentally changing who you are based on who's in the room. What matters is that your values remain consistent even when it's uncomfortable. What matters is that you're living from the inside out, not the outside in. You came into this world as yourself. Don't spend your entire life being someone else. Don't reach the end and realize you wasted decades performing instead of living. Be you, fully, unapologetically, courageously. The world needs who you actually are, not who you think you should be. Chapter 8: Building Unstoppable Momentum. There's a force in the universe that most people never harness. It's invisible, but its effects are absolutely undeniable. When you have it, everything feels easier. Progress feels natural, obstacles seem smaller, confidence compounds, opportunities appear. You're not pushing yourself forward through sheer willpower. You're being carried by something powerful. That force is momentum, and learning to build it and protect it is one of the most important skills you'll ever develop. Here's how momentum works. In the beginning, everything is hard. You're pushing against inertia. You're starting from zero. You're building habits that don't exist yet. You're taking action without seeing results. It feels like you're working incredibly hard and getting nowhere. And this is where most people quit. They work hard for a week, a month, maybe even 3 months. They don't see dramatic results, so they conclude it's not working. They stop. They try something new. The cycle repeats. They jump from thing to thing to thing, never staying in motion long enough for momentum to build. And momentum is everything. Because here's what they don't understand: progress is often invisible before it's obvious. You're developing skills, you're building capacity, you're creating neural pathways, you're establishing credibility, you're laying groundwork. None of this produces immediate visible results, but all of it is absolutely essential. Then, suddenly, everything clicks. The work you've been doing compounds, results start appearing, opportunities emerge. Progress accelerates. What felt impossible 3 months ago now feels achievable. This is momentum. And once you have it, protecting it becomes your highest priority. To build momentum, you need to start with small, consistent actions. Choose something meaningful. Commit to showing up daily, not perfectly, not for hours, just consistently. 5 minutes is infinitely better than 0 minutes. A short workout beats no workout. 1 page written beats no pages written. These small actions feel insignificant in the moment, and honestly, they are insignificant at the moment, but they're not meant to create results at the moment. They're meant to accumulate. Day after day, week after week, they compound into something substantial. Momentum also feeds on wins, small wins. Every time you complete a task, acknowledge it. Every time you honor a commitment to yourself, recognize it. Every time you push through resistance, celebrate it. These celebrations aren't vanity, they're psychological fuel. They reinforce positive behavior. They remind your brain that you're moving forward. And that reminder keeps you going during difficult stretches. Now, here's the critical part. Once you have momentum, don't break the chain unnecessarily. One missed day might seem harmless. I'll just skip today and get back to it tomorrow. But that one day introduces doubt. It weakens the pattern. It makes the next skip easier. Before you know it, momentum is gone and you're starting from zero again, wondering why you can't seem to stick with anything. But here's the thing: if you do break the chain, don't spiral. Don't let one missed day turn into a week. Don't let one setback convince you that you failed. One missed day doesn't erase weeks of progress. Just get back on track immediately. The faster you return to the pattern, the less momentum you lose. Protect your momentum like your life depends on it, because in a very real sense, it does. Momentum transforms the same amount of effort into exponentially better results. It's the difference between pushing a boulder uphill and riding a wave. Think about a rocket launching into space. It uses the most fuel during takeoff, fighting against gravity, breaking through the atmosphere. But once it reaches orbit, it barely uses any fuel at all. It glides. That's momentum. Right now, you might be in the launch phase. It's hard. It's exhausting. You're using every ounce of effort and seeing minimal progress. But keep going, keep showing up, keep taking action. Because once you break through, once momentum kicks in, everything changes. The compound effect is real. Small actions, repeated consistently over time, create massive results. Not because each action is powerful, but because they build on each other. They create momentum. And momentum creates the life you actually want. Keep moving. Trust the process. Let momentum carry you. Chapter 9: The Practice of Gratitude and Presence. Stop for a moment, right now. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just stop. Take a deep breath. Notice the air filling your lungs. Notice the surface beneath you. Notice that you're alive, right here, right now, in this exact moment. How often do you actually do that? How often are you fully present in your own life instead of lost in thoughts about the past or worries about the future? For most people, the answer is almost never. They're either replaying what already happened or planning what's coming next. The present moment, the only moment that actually exists, goes completely unnoticed. And this is how people achieve every goal they set and still feel empty inside. Because achievement without presence is hollow. You can accomplish everything, reach every milestone, acquire every possession, and still feel unfulfilled if you're never actually present enough to experience your life. Think about it. How many moments have you missed because you were too busy thinking about something else? How many conversations have you been physically present for but mentally absent from? How many beautiful moments passed by unnoticed because you were scrolling through your phone? This isn't living, this is sleepwalking through life. And the tragedy is that most people don't realize it until it's too late. Presence is a practice. It's the deliberate choice to be fully engaged with this moment, right now, regardless of what's happening or what needs to happen next. It's about being here, completely, instead of halfway here and halfway somewhere else. And presence changes everything. When you're truly present, a simple cup of coffee becomes a moment of enjoyment instead of something to gulp down while rushing to the next thing. A conversation with a friend becomes a real connection instead of just words exchanged while you're distracted. A walk becomes a peaceful experience instead of just transportation from point A to point B. Presence doesn't make life perfect, it makes life vivid. Now let's talk about gratitude, because gratitude and presence are deeply connected. Gratitude forces you into the present moment. When you actively appreciate what's in front of you, you cannot simultaneously be lost in past regrets or future anxieties. Gratitude anchors you now. Most people think gratitude is about being thankful for the big things, the promotion, the relationship, the achievement. And yes, those things matter. But real gratitude, the kind that actually transforms your experience of life, is about noticing the small things, the things you take for granted until they're gone. The fact that you woke up this morning, that you have a place to sleep, that you have access to clean water, that you can see, hear, move, that you have people who care about you, that you're learning and growing. These aren't small things, you've just normalized them. Start practicing gratitude daily. Before you go to sleep, identify 3 specific things you're grateful for from that day. Not generic things, specific moments, a good conversation, a problem you solved, a moment of peace, a small win. This simple practice rewires your brain. Over time, you start noticing positive things throughout the day instead of just at night. Your brain begins scanning for things to appreciate instead of things to complain about. And what you focus on expands. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging what's working while you address what isn't. It means recognizing progress while pursuing growth. It means appreciating the present while building the future. You can be ambitious and grateful simultaneously. You can strive for more while being content with now. These aren't contradictions, they're complements. Here's something most people miss: satisfaction doesn't come from achievement, it comes from appreciation. You can have everything and feel miserable if you don't appreciate what you have. Or you can have very little and feel rich if you appreciate what you do have. The quality of your life isn't determined by what you have. It's determined by how present you are with what you have. So practice presence. Put your phone down during meals. Have conversations without multitasking. Take walks without headphones sometimes. Notice your surroundings. Feel your feelings. Experience your life instead of just thinking about it. Practice gratitude. Notice what's good. Appreciate what's working. Acknowledge the people who support you. Recognize how far you've come. Because here's the final truth: this moment, right now, is the only one you're guaranteed. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow isn't promised. All you have is now. Don't miss it. Chapter 10: Designing Your Life with Intention. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. If your life continues on its current trajectory, where will you be in 5 years? Not where you hope to be, not where you wish you'd be, where you'll actually be based on the daily choices you're making right now. Does that future excite you or does it terrify you? Because here's the reality: your life is not happening to you. Your life is being created by you. Every single day, through thousands of small decisions, you are designing your future. The question is, are you designing it intentionally or are you letting it happen by default? Most people drift. They accept whatever comes. They react to circumstances instead of creating them. They live by default instead of by design. And then, years later, they look around and wonder how they ended up here, how they ended up in a career they don't enjoy, in relationships that don't fulfill them, in a life that doesn't reflect who they actually are or what they actually value. It happened one small, unconscious choice at a time, but you don't have to live that way. You can be the architect of your life, the conscious designer of your daily experience and long-term trajectory. But it requires something from you. It requires clarity. It requires intention. It requires the courage to choose what you actually want instead of what feels safe or expected. So let's start with the most important question. What do you actually want? Not what your parents want for you, not what looks impressive on social media, not what society says success should look like. What do you want? What would make your life feel meaningful, fulfilling, aligned with who you really are? This question requires brutal honesty because most people have never truly asked it. They've adopted goals from family, culture, comparison without ever questioning whether those goals actually resonate with their own values. Take time for this. Turn off distractions. Sit with yourself. Write. What do you value most? What do you want to experience? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to become? What does a life well lived look like to you specifically? These answers form the foundation of your intentional life. Once you have clarity, work backward. If this is where you want to be in 5 years, where do you need to be in 1 year to be on track? If this is where you need to be in 1 year, what needs to happen this quarter, this month, this week, today? This backward planning connects your daily actions to your long-term vision. It ensures that what you're doing today is actually building toward what you want tomorrow. Because most people's daily actions have zero connection to their stated goals. They say they want financial freedom, but they're not learning about investing. They say they want great relationships, but they're not doing the work to improve communication. They say they want to be in great shape, but they're not prioritizing exercise. There's a massive gap between what people say they want and what they're actually doing to get it. But here's what most people miss. Designing your life isn't just about setting goals. It's about designing your environment, your relationships, your daily rhythms, your entire ecosystem. Because you cannot maintain new behaviors in old environments. You cannot grow in relationships that reinforce your old patterns. You cannot become a new person while living exactly the same way. Audit your life. Look at your physical environment. Does it support the person you're becoming, or does it keep you stuck as the person you've been? Look at your relationships. Do they energize you, challenge you to grow, support your goals, or do they drain you, enable bad habits, pull you back to old patterns? Look at your daily routine. Does how you spend your time align with what you say matters, or is there a massive disconnect? Then make adjustments. Remove what doesn't serve you, add what does. This isn't selfishness, this is self respect. You're protecting the space needed for the life you're intentionally creating. And yes, this might mean difficult conversations. It might mean letting go of relationships that aren't healthy. It might mean changing routines that feel comfortable but aren't productive. It might mean disappointing people who expect you to stay the same. Do it anyway, because the alternative is spending your entire life living someone else's vision instead of your own. The alternative is reaching the end and realizing you never actually lived, you just existed. You just went through the motions. You just did what was expected. Designing your life is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. You'll need to reassess regularly. What worked last year might not work now. What mattered before might not matter anymore. Stay flexible, adjust as needed, but always stay intentional. The alternative to design is drift, and drift takes you nowhere meaningful. Drift takes you to regret. You get one life, one shot, one opportunity to create something that reflects who you truly are and what you actually value. Don't waste it living by default. Don't waste it chasing someone else's definition of success. Don't waste it playing it safe when you know you're meant for something more. Design it, build it, live it, intentionally, courageously, authentically, starting right now. Chapter 11: The Truth About Fear and Courage. Havin, let's talk about the thing that's been stopping you. The invisible force that's kept you playing small, staying safe, avoiding risk. The thing that whispers in your ear every time you think about doing something bold. That thing is fear, and here's what you need to understand. Fear is a liar. Fear tells you that you're not ready. Fear tells you that you'll fail. Fear tells you that people will judge you, reject you, laugh at you. Fear paints catastrophic pictures of worst-case scenarios that almost never actually happen. And most people listen to these lies their entire lives. They let fear make their decisions. They let fear choose their careers. They let fear determine their relationships. They let fear dictate how big they're allowed to dream. And then they wonder why their lives feel small, confined, unfulfilled. But here's the truth that changes everything. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in light of fear. Every single person you admire, every person who's done something remarkable, felt fear. The difference is they didn't let fear have the final say. Think about the last time fear stopped you. Maybe you wanted to start a business, but fear said, "What if it fails?" Maybe you wanted to have a difficult conversation, but fear said, "What if they get angry?" Maybe you wanted to pursue a dream, but fear said, "What if you're not good enough?" And you listened. You stayed where it was safe, where it was comfortable, where nothing could go wrong, because nothing was really happening. Fear wants you to believe that safety is the highest value, that avoiding risk is smart, that playing it safe is the responsible choice. But here's what fear doesn't tell you. The biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. The biggest danger is reaching the end of your life, having never really lived because you were too afraid to try. Every opportunity you don't take because of fear, every relationship you don't pursue, every dream you don't chase, it all adds up to a life half lived. And that's the real tragedy. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about reckless behavior. I'm not saying ignore legitimate danger or make foolish decisions. I'm talking about a fear that has no basis in reality. The fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of being seen, the fear of success. These fears aren't protecting you from real danger. They're protecting you from real living. So how do you overcome fear? You don't. You feel it and act anyway. You acknowledge the fear,
Thank it for trying to keep you safe, and then you do the thing that scares you. Because here's what happens every single time you face fear. It gets small, not immediately, not dramatically, but progressively. The first time you do something that terrifies you, it feels overwhelming. Your heart pounds, your hands shake, your mind screams at you to stop. But you do it anyway, and you survive. You don't die. The catastrophe you imagine doesn't happen. And the next time you face that same situation, the fear is a little bit quieter, a little bit smaller, a little bit less convincing. This is how you build courage. Not by waiting until you're fearless, but by acting while you're afraid. Every act of courage, no matter how small, builds your courage muscle. You prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, that you can survive uncertainty, that you're stronger than your fear. Start small if you need to. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Take the class you've been putting off. Share the idea you've been hiding. Apply for the position you think you're not qualified for. Each small act of courage compounds. And here's something powerful. Courage is contagious. When you act courageously, you give other people permission to do the same. When you speak your truth, others feel safer speaking theirs. When you take risks, others start questioning why they're playing it safe. Your courage creates ripples that extend far beyond yourself. But most importantly, courage creates the life you actually want. Every single thing worth having exists on the other side of fear. The career you dream about, the relationship you desire, the impact you want to make, the person you're meant to become. All of it requires you to feel fear and move forward anyway. So ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? What would you pursue? What would you create? What would you say? That answer reveals your next step. Fear will always be there. It's part of being human, but it doesn't have to be in control. You can feel the fear, acknowledge it, and choose courage anyway. Because on the other side of fear is everything you've ever wanted. What are you afraid of, and what are you going to do about it? Chapter 12, The Power of Letting Go. Right now, you're carrying weight you don't need to carry. Grudges from years ago, resentment toward people who've wronged you, guilt about mistakes you've made, shame about who you used to be, attachments to outcomes you can't control, expectations that are crushing you. All of this weight is dragging you down, exhausting you, keeping you stuck in the past while life moves forward without you. And the hardest part, you're choosing to carry it. Nobody's forcing you to hold on to that resentment. Nobody's making you replay that betrayal over and over. Nobody's requiring you to punish yourself for past mistakes. You're doing it to yourself. And until you learn to let go, you'll never be free. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth. People think letting go means forgetting, excusing, pretending something didn't happen. But that's not what letting go is. Letting go is releasing your emotional attachment to something that's already over. It's choosing to stop letting the past control your present. Think about someone who hurt you. Maybe they betrayed you. Maybe they lied. Maybe they broke a promise. When you hold on to that anger, when you rehearse that story repeatedly, who are you hurting? Not them. They've moved on. They're living their life. The only person suffering from your resentment is you. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't work. It only destroys you from the inside. But letting go doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile with them or pretend it didn't hurt. Letting go means you're no longer giving them free rent in your mind. You're no longer allowing what they did to define who you are or dictate how you feel. You're taking your power back. The same principle applies to your own mistakes. How long are you going to punish yourself for something you did years ago? How many more times are you going to replay that failure, that embarrassment, that moment you wish you could take back? You've already paid for it. You've already suffered. When is the sentence over? Guilt serves a purpose when it motivates you to make amends or change behavior. But guilt that just cycles endlessly without leading to growth is just self-torture. And you don't deserve that. Forgive yourself, not because what you did was okay, but because carrying that shame is preventing you from becoming who you're meant to be. You can acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move forward. You can be better today than you were then, but you can't do that while you're still living in the past. Now let's talk about attachment to outcomes. This is subtle, but incredibly important. You can have goals, you can work toward things you want, but when you become attached to specific outcomes, when you tell yourself, I'll only be happy if this specific thing happens, you're setting yourself up for suffering, because life doesn't always unfold the way you plan. People don't always behave the way you expect. Opportunities don't always materialize when you want them to. And if your happiness is dependent on everything going exactly according to your script, you'll spend most of your life disappointed. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. Detachment means you give your best effort and then release your grip on the results. You do everything you can, and then you trust that whatever happens is what's supposed to happen. You stay open to possibilities you haven't imagined instead of rigidly clinging to one specific vision. This creates freedom. When you're not desperately attached to one particular outcome, you can adapt, you can pivot, you can find opportunities in unexpected places. You're no longer so invested in your plan working that you miss better alternatives. Letting go also applies to relationships. Sometimes you need to let go of people, not because they're bad people, but because they're not your people. Maybe you've outgrown each other. Maybe the relationship has become toxic. Maybe it's just running its course. Holding on to relationships that no longer serve you out of guilt or habit or fear of being alone is holding you back. You can appreciate what someone meant to you at one point in your life while acknowledging that this chapter is over. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish them well and still choose not to have them in your life anymore. This isn't cruelty. This is self-preservation. So how do you actually let go? It starts with awareness. Notice what you're holding on to. Notice the stories you keep telling yourself. Notice the resentment you're nurturing. Notice the guilt you're carrying. Just notice it without judgment. Then ask yourself, is holding on to this serving me in any way? Is this resentment making my life better? Is this guilt helping me grow? Is this attachment bringing me peace? If the answer is no, you have a choice. You can keep carrying it, or you can set it down. Letting go is a practice, not a one-time event. That anger might come back tomorrow. That guilt might resurface next week. That attachment might return when you're stressed. That's okay. Notice it again. Choose to let it go again. Each time you make that choice, it gets a little easier. Create a ritual if it helps. Write down what you're letting go of and burn the paper. Have a conversation with the person who hurt you, either in real life or in your journal. Visualize yourself releasing the weight you've been carrying. Whatever method works for you, do it, because you cannot build a new life while carrying all the weight from the old one. Let go of the grudges. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the desperate attachment to outcome. Let go of relationships that drain you. Let go of the person you used to be and make space for the person you're becoming. Freedom is on the other side of letting go. What are you ready to release? You know the one. It's been talking nonstop since you woke up this morning, commenting on everything, judging, analyzing, worrying, planning, criticizing. That voice never shuts up. And for most people, that voice is their worst enemy. Because here's what most people don't realize. The way you talk to yourself shapes your entire reality. Your inner dialogue, the constant stream of thoughts running through your mind, determines how you feel, how you act, and ultimately, what you achieve. If your inner dialogue is negative, critical, and defeating, your life will reflect that. If your inner dialogue is empowering, supportive, and possibility focused, your life will reflect that instead. Think about how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. Do you say, I messed up, but I'll learn from this and do better next time? Or do you say, I'm such an idiot. I always screw everything up. I'll never get this right. Think about how you talk to yourself when you face a challenge. Do you say, this is hard, but I'm capable of figuring it out? Or do you say, this is impossible. I can't do this. I should just give up now. The difference between these two inner dialogues is the difference between someone who grows stronger through adversity and someone who crumbles under pressure. Most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. If a friend came to you after making a mistake, would you call them an idiot? Would you tell them they're worthless and they'll never succeed? No. You'd be supportive. You'd be encouraged. You'd remind them that one mistake doesn't define them. So why do you do it to yourself? Your inner dialogue was shaped by your early experiences. The criticism you heard from parents, teachers, or peers became internalized. You started saying those things to yourself. That critical voice that sounds like you. It's often just echoes of people from your past. But here's the powerful part. You can change it. You can become aware of your inner dialogue and deliberately reshape it. This isn't about lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. This is about talking to yourself the way you talk to someone you're trying to help instead of someone you're trying to destroy. Start by noticing. Throughout today, pay attention to your internal commentary. When you make a small mistake, what does your inner voice? When you look in the mirror, what thoughts arise? When you think about your goals, what does that voice tell you? Just notice, no judgment, just awareness. You'll probably be shocked by how negative that voice is, how harsh, how unforgiving. You might realize you've been walking around with a bully in your head, criticizing everything you do, predicting failure, highlighting every flaw. Once you notice it, you can challenge it. When you hear that negative thought, ask yourself, is this actually true? Is this helpful? Would I say this to someone I love? Usually the answer is no. Then replace it. Consciously choose a different thought. If your inner dialogue says, I'm terrible at this, replace it with, I'm learning. I'm getting better with practice. If it says, I'll never succeed, replace it with, success takes time and I'm making progress. This feels awkward at first. It feels forced. That's normal. You're creating new neural pathways. You're training your brain to default to a different pattern. Keep doing it anyway. Another powerful technique is to speak to yourself in second person instead of first person. Research shows that when you use you instead of I, you create psychological distance that helps with emotional regulation and motivation. Instead of I can do this, try you can do this. Instead of I'm feeling anxious, try you're feeling anxious, but you've handled this before. This subtle shift activates the same part of your brain that gives advice to others, which is typically more rational and supportive than the part that talks to yourself. Your inner dialogue also needs to become more specific and accurate. Generalizations like, I always fail, or nothing ever works out for me, are almost never true. They're emotional exaggeration. Replace them with specifics. This particular thing didn't work, but I've succeeded at many other things. Or this situation didn't turn out how I hoped, but many things in my life are going well. Accuracy matters. Your brain believes what you tell it repeatedly. If you keep telling yourself absolute statements like always and never, your brain will find evidence to support them. If you speak more accurately, acknowledging both challenges and strengths, your brain develops a more balanced, realistic perspective. Also, pay attention to the questions you ask yourself. Questions direct focus. If you constantly ask, why am I so stupid? Your brain will helpfully provide answers. If instead you ask, what can I learn from this? Or how can I improve? Your brain will focus on solutions instead of self-criticism. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your thinking. Here's something most people miss. Your inner dialogue affects your physical state too. When you think negatively, defeating thoughts, your posture changes, your energy drops, your breathing becomes shallow, your entire nervous system responds to the story you're telling yourself. But when you shift to empowering inner dialogue, your physiology shifts too. You stand taller, you breathe deeper, you feel more energized. Your body and mind are connected. Change one, and you change the other. Mastering your inner dialogue is a daily practice. Some days will be easier than others. On difficult days, that negative voice might be loud and persistent. That's okay. Don't try to silence it completely. Just don't let it run the show. Acknowledge it. I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. Then consciously choose a different thought. That's just a thought, not a fact. Here's what's actually true. Over time, the negative voice gets quieter. The empowering voice gets stronger. You'll still have doubt. You'll still face criticism from yourself. But it won't control you anymore. Because you've learned the most important skill. You can think about your thinking. You can observe your thoughts instead of being swept away by them. You can choose which thoughts to amplify and which to dismiss. Your inner dialogue is either your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. The choice is yours. What story are you telling yourself today? Chapter 14, The Art of Strategic Rest. Here's something nobody talks about in the world of self-improvement. Rest is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not something you do when you've failed to be productive enough. Rest is a strategic necessity. And if you don't learn how to rest properly, you will burn out. Not maybe, definitely. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, work harder, sleep less, push through exhaustion, sacrifice everything for your goals. And while there's value in hard work and dedication, there's a dark side to this mentality that's destroying people from the inside out. Because here's the truth. You are not a machine. You cannot operate at maximum capacity indefinitely. Your body needs recovery. Your mind needs downtime. Your nervous system needs periods of calm. And when you ignore these needs, when you push relentlessly without rest, you don't become more productive. You become less. Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It accumulates slowly. You push a little too hard for a little too long. You ignore the early warning signs. Exhaustion, irritability, difficulty concentrating, decreased motivation. You tell yourself, I'll rest when this project is done, or I'll slow down after I hit this goal. But the project never ends. There's always another goal, and eventually your body makes the decision for you. It shuts down. Strategic rest is different from collapse. Collapse is what happens when you ignore your needs until you have no choice but to stop. Strategic rest is intentional recovery built into your routine before you reach that point. It's preventative, not reactive. Think of yourself like an athlete. Athletes don't train at maximum intensity every single day. They understand that recovery is when the actual adaptation happens. The workout breaks down the muscle, the rest rebuilds it stronger. Without rest, there's only breakdown, no rebuilding. Your mind works the same way. Deep work breaks down mental resources. Rest rebuilds them. Without proper recovery, you're just depleting yourself over and over until there's nothing left. So what does strategic rest actually look like? It's not just about sleep, though sleep is absolutely critical. It's about creating different types of rest throughout your day, your week, your year. Physical rest, your body needs time to recover. This means adequate sleep, but also movement that's restorative rather than depleting. Gentle stretching, walking, activities that release tension instead of creating it. Mental rest, your brain needs breaks from intense focus. This doesn't mean scrolling social media. That's not resting. That's just different stimulation. Real mental rest is quiet time, meditation, sitting in silence, letting your mind wander without task or purpose. Emotional rest, you need space from emotional labor, time when you're not managing other people's feelings or suppressing your own, time when you can just be without performing or caretaking. Social rest, even if you love people, social interaction requires energy. Introverts know this instinctively, but it's true for everyone. You need time alone, time to recharge without the demands of social engagement. Sensory rest, in our modern world, you're constantly bombarded with stimulation, screens, notifications, Noise. Your nervous system needs periods of low stimulation, dimmed lights, silence, simplicity, creative rest. If you do creative work, you need to refill the well. This means consuming art, music, nature, and beauty, things that inspire you without demanding anything from you. Most people only rest when they're forced to. They work until they're sick, then they rest while they recover, then they immediately jump back into the grind. This creates a cycle of depletion and minimal recovery that slowly erodes your capacity over time. Strategic rest means scheduling recovery before you need it. It means taking a full day off every week, not to catch up on chores or run errands, but to actually rest. It means building breaks into your workday instead of pushing through for 8 straight hours. It means taking real vacations where you completely disconnect instead of working remotely from a different location. This isn't indulgence. This is maintenance. You wouldn't run your car constantly without ever changing the oil or letting it cool down. You'd destroy the engine. Why would you treat yourself worse than you treat your car? Rest also enhances performance. When you're well rested, you think more clearly. You solve problems more creatively. You make better decisions. You have more energy for the things that matter. The work you produce in 4 focused hours, while well rested, is higher quality than what you'd produce in 8 exhausted hours. But here's what stops most people from resting. Guilt. They feel guilty for not being productive every moment. They've internalized the message that their worth is tied to their output. That rest is something you have to earn. That stopping is a weakness. Let me be clear. Your worth is not determined by your productivity. You are valuable as a human being, independent of what you produce, and rest is not something you earn. It's something you need, just like you need food, water, and air. Release the guilt. You're not being lazy by resting. You're being smart. You're investing in your long-term capacity instead of burning yourself out for short-term output. Create boundaries around your rest time. Turn off notifications. Don't check email. Don't do just this one thing. Protect your rest as fiercely as you protect your work time, because rest is work too. It's the work of restoration. And pay attention to how you feel. Your body is constantly giving you information, exhaustion, tension, difficulty, focusing. These aren't signs to push harder, they're signs to rest. Listen to them. Here's the final truth. The most productive people aren't those who work the most hours. They're those who manage their energy most effectively. And managing energy means balancing output with recovery. Work with rest, depletion with restoration. You can achieve more by resting strategically than you ever will by grinding relentlessly. So take the rest without guilt, without apology. Your body needs it. Your mind needs it. Your long-term success depends on it. When was the last time you really rested? Chapter 15. Building a legacy that matters. Let me ask you something heavy. When you're gone, when your time on this earth is over, what will you leave behind? Not material possessions, not money. Those things fade. I'm talking about the mark you made, the lives you touched, the difference you created, the legacy that continues long after you're no longer here. Most people don't think about legacy until it's too late. They spend decades chasing things that ultimately don't matter, accumulating stuff, impressing people who don't care, climbing ladders that are leaned against the wrong walls. And then at the end, they realize they built a life instead of a legacy. A life is what you experience personally. A legacy is what you leave for others. Both matter, but one outlasts you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're going to die. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 50 years, but it's coming. And you don't get to know when, which means that every day you're alive is a day to build something that matters. Not someday, today. Legacy isn't reserved for famous people. It's not about having your name on a building or being remembered in history books. Legacy is about the impact you have on the people around you, the values you instill in your children, the kindness you show to strangers, the problems you solve, the beauty you create, the love you give. Think about the people who've most influenced your life. Maybe a teacher who believed in you when nobody else did. Maybe a friend who showed up during your darkest moment. Maybe a parent who sacrificed so you could have opportunities they never had. These people created a legacy in your life, not because they were famous, but because they mattered to you. You have that same power. Every single day, you're either building a legacy or wasting an opportunity. The question is, are you being intentional about it? Start by asking yourself, what do I want to be known for? Not, what am I currently known for, but what do I want to be known for? What values do I want to embody? What impact do I want to have? When people think of me after I'm gone, what do I want them to remember? These aren't easy questions. They require deep reflection, but they're the most important questions you'll ever answer because they reveal your purpose, your why, the reason you're here beyond just existing. Maybe you want to be known for kindness, for showing up, for making people feel seen and valued. Maybe you want to be known for courage, for standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Maybe you want to be known for creativity, for bringing beauty into the world. Maybe you want to be known for service, for making a tangible difference in people's lives. Whatever it is, once you know what you want your legacy to be, you can start building it intentionally. Every decision becomes a choice. Does this align with the legacy I want to leave, or does it move me away from it? Legacy is built in small moments. It's built in how you treat the waiter, how you speak to your partner, how you show up for your friends, how you show a disappointment, how you respond to people who can't do anything for you. These moments seem insignificant, but they accumulate into a pattern, and that pattern becomes your legacy. You can also think about legacy in terms of creation. What are you building that will outlast you? Maybe it's a business that provides value and employment. Maybe it's art that inspires people. Maybe it's a body of knowledge you're sharing. Maybe it's a family you're raising with intention and love. Creation is how you extend your impact beyond your lifetime. The things you build, the ideas you share, the systems you improve, they continue benefiting people long after you're gone. But here's what matters more than anything. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself you'll focus on legacy once you're successful, once you're financially stable, once you have more time, because that moment never comes. There's always another goal, always another milestone, always another excuse to delay what actually matters. Start building your legacy today, right now, with the next interaction you have, with the next choice you make, with the next opportunity to make a difference. No matter how small, tell people you love them, express gratitude, offer help without expecting anything in return. Create something meaningful. Stand up for someone who can't stand up for themselves. Share what you've learned. Be present with the people in front of you. These aren't grand gestures. They're simple acts, but simple acts repeated over a lifetime create profound impact. Also, document your wisdom. Write down the lessons you've learned, the mistakes you've made, the insights you've gained. Not because you think you're some guru with all the answers, but because your experience might help someone else avoid pain, or find hope, or gain clarity. Your story matters. Your perspective is unique. The combination of your experiences, values, and insights exists nowhere else in the universe. Share it. Don't let it die with you. And invest in people. This is the most lasting form of legacy. The time you spend developing someone else's potential. The encouragement you give that helps them believe in themselves. The wisdom you share that helps them navigate their journey. When you invest in people, your impact multiplies. They carry what you gave them into their interactions with others. Your influence extends far beyond what you can directly touch. But here's the hard part about legacy. You won't always see its full impact. You might not know which small kindness changed someone's trajectory. You might not see how your work inspired someone to create something amazing. You might not witness the ripple effects of your choices. And that's okay. Legacy isn't about recognition. It's about contribution. It's about making the choice to matter, whether anyone notices or not. As you move through your remaining days, whatever number that is, Ask yourself regularly, am I building something that matters? Am I living in a way that aligns with the legacy I want to leave? Am I making choices I'll be proud of when I look back? Because here's the final truth. You can't control how long you live, but you can control how well you live. You can control whether you spend your time on things that fade or things that end. You can control whether you leave the world a little better than you found it. One day your time will be up. On that day, will you have lived a life of meaning? Will you have built something that outlasts you? Will the world be better because you were here? Start building that legacy. What mark will you leave? You made it. You stayed with me for this entire journey. And that alone says something powerful about you. It says you're serious. It says you're committed. It says you're ready for real change. But here's the thing. Everything you just learned means absolutely nothing if it stays as information. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Inspiration without implementation is just distraction. This audiobook was never meant to just make you feel good. It was meant to change how you live. So right now, before you move on to whatever's next, I want you to make a decision. Choose one thing from this audiobook. Just one. Maybe it's identifying and replacing a limiting belief. Maybe it's establishing one disciplined habit. Maybe it's practicing emotional awareness during challenging moments. Maybe it's protecting your attention more fiercely. Maybe it's building resilience by facing discomfort intentionally. Whatever it is, commit to it, not casually. For the next 30 days, make that one principle the foundation of how you operate. Then, once it becomes natural, add another and another. Layer these principles until they become the infrastructure of your life. Remember, transformation doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment. Progress beats perfection every time. Consistency beats intensity. Movement beats stagnation. Small steps forward beat standing still. You are capable of far more than you currently believe. The only question is whether you'll commit to discovering that capacity, whether you'll do the work when it's hard, whether you'll keep going when you don't see results yet, whether you'll choose growth over comfort. The life you want isn't some distant fantasy. It's not reserved for other people. It's not dependent on luck or perfect circumstance. It's waiting for you on the other side of consistent, intentional action. Every great achievement started with a decision, a single moment where someone said, I'm doing this. No matter what, this is your moment. The person you're meant to become is waiting. The life you're meant to live is waiting. The impact you're meant to make is waiting. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting until you feel ready. Start now. Start messy. Start scared. Just start. This is your one life, your one Don't reach the end wondering what could have been. Master yourself, transform your world, become who you're meant to be. Thank you for listening. Now go make it happen.